we did these things called hackathons. So almost every month, everyone would be invited to pull an all-nighter at the company, and we would have like DJs and food trucks. And basically the rule of these hackathons is like you work on a dream project that's been inside your head but has nothing to do with your day job. So you can't like work on a presentation, or you can't sit and check off your emails. Like it's some wild, crazy idea. And then if you're still standing at the end of the night, everyone presented their ideas. And I would say most of the features and products in those early days of Facebook came from hackathons. They didn't come from senior people in the company telling other people what to build. I think if more of us created safe spaces in our lives to let ourselves dream big and have wild ideas, I think we would amaze ourselves at the kind of things we come up with.
We live in a complex and ever-changing world, a place that is maybe harder than ever to successfully navigate. The answer is surely to be brave, but it's also to seek and be open to guidance. Mentors are the one consistent through line in the lives of all accomplished people, myself included. So welcome to Mentor Buffet, a feast for those, like me, curious about who helped the most successful among us succeed. RANDI ZUCKERBERG is one of the original employees of Facebook. She's always been on the cutting edge of industries she's in, first social media and now cryptocurrency, and so finding mentors has been a challenge for her.
There was really no one who was doing what we were doing in the early days of Facebook.
RANDI told me about the importance of creating environments for wild creativity. She says in Silicon Valley, failing is not only acceptable, it's encouraged.
Out in Silicon Valley, it's like not only is it okay to fail, it's almost like a badge of honor that you tried something so risky and so bold that it failed.
She's learned to dream big and fall hard, and for that, I admire her. Here's my conversation with RANDI ZUCKERBERG.
Very quickly in those early days, I realized that I had no one to pick up the phone and call and ask how to get anything done, because we were blazing new trails. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to be my own mentor. And the people around me that are in the trenches with me, it's my peers that I have to rely on. I can't rely on someone older or someone in different industry. Like we got to build this plane ourselves. And I think that was my first real awakening, that there's just so many different perspectives on how to find mentorship. We were really, there was really no one who was doing what we were doing in the early days of Facebook. And I would go into meetings with big companies, and they'd be asking, so many questions about, can we do this? Can we do this? And my first instinct would be like, let me go ask the adult and get back to you. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm the adult that has to answer this question. And you really learn resilience very quickly.
And there were 20 of you?
Yeah, there were about 20 of us. We were in this tiny little office above a Chinese restaurant in Palo Alto, California. I think it's really hard for people to think of Meta, this big global company today, as a teeny tiny startup. But that's what we were in 2004. I had 15 job titles because I was one of the only non-engineering hires at the company. So I kind of did almost everything else. And my entire marketing budget the first year was 1 box of t-shirts.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty wild now when you look at what the company has become. And you just have to remember that there's no such thing in the world as overnight success. Anything that looks like a huge success started tiny and scrappy and started with just a lot of hard work.
If you had to make a decision, could you just make it? Or did you have somebody by your side to be like, do we do this or do we do this?
Just one example, in the really early days, I was like, you know what? I think Facebook could be useful for local elections, because I think politicians would want a place where they could connect with a lot of people in their area. And everyone was like, well, okay, now you run political strategy for Facebook. Just because I had that idea, I then was in charge of it. And that's the kind of thing that happens at a startup is like you raise your hand with an idea and then you might actually just find yourself running something that becomes huge. And I remember when Facebook started to really play pivotal roles in elections, and like just remembering being in that first meeting where I was like, I think this could be useful. And now, now look where we are. Sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I should have kept my mouth shut back then. But it's pretty wild when you're at a company where you have an idea and then all of a sudden you're the decision maker on it.
What did it feel like to be in those circles, like the moments of I have an idea and I'm going to share it with my peers? What are those moments like? Like, are people always receptive? Are people what is it like to be in a moment of growth at one of these companies?
Yeah, people are not always receptive of change, but we did these things called hackathons. So almost every month, everyone would be invited to pull an all-nighter at the company, and we would have like DJs and food trucks. And basically the rule of these hackathons is like you work on a dream project that's been inside your head but has nothing to do with your day job. So you can't like work on a presentation, or you can't sit and check off your emails. Like it's some wild, crazy idea. And then if you're still standing at the end of the night, everyone presented their ideas. And so these hackathons actually became a safe space to put it's almost like a business improv a little bit. It became a safe space to maybe try out an idea that you wouldn't feel comfortable bringing up in a meeting during the workday. You could just put it out in front of your colleagues. And I would say most of the features and products in those early days of Facebook came from hackathons. They didn't come from senior people in the company telling other people what to build. They came from just showing other people in an atmosphere where people were open-minded, and then people being like, oh, that's cool. Like we should work on that more.
Wow. It's like people are in a different headspace, both from like a creative standpoint and from a receiving standpoint in that environment. I'm trying to think about like what it is. It's like, well, there's no pressure, right?
Yes.
It's supposed to be out there.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily supposed to be known to be useful in the world yet, right? It's just supposed to feel novel to you.
Totally.
And that's, yeah.
Most of the ideas were ridiculous. I feel like completely ridiculous things. Like someone hooked an iPhone up to a trampoline and then like your jump locked and unlocked your phone. But people didn't realize how difficult it was to recreate an identical jump. So you'd have to jump for like 4 hours to get back into your phone once it locked. But like those are the kind of things though that create an atmosphere where you feel comfortable to put just wild ideas out there. And I think in our daily lives, we don't feel comfortable putting wild ideas out there because you're sitting in a meeting and the last thing you want is to bare your soul with an idea and then people come up with like, no, and they come up with a million reasons why you shouldn't do it. But I think if more of us created safe spaces in our lives to let ourselves dream big and have wild ideas, I think we would amaze ourselves at the kind of things we come up with.
Well, we have to make space for it, right? Because people are so compartmentalized into like, I don't know, like survival or like growth mode, or I feel like it's survival.
Yes. I think you have to train being innovative and creative as a muscle. Like it doesn't just come because you're in Silicon Valley or you're working at a startup. Like you have to really train that as a skill set. That's why those hackathons in the early days were so magical, because like you said, you walk in there and there is no pressure to be brilliant or it's just like put something crazy out into the world that wasn't in the world before you thought of it and see what happens.
Did you feel pressure to be brilliant often?
As soon as social media started getting popular, suddenly every company, every celebrity like needed a Facebook strategy. And it was like, go to Randy. She's the person who can help you. And so, I would just walk into big companies where there would be like 40 people in a room, or I would walk into meetings with like A-list Hollywood people. And I think they just like expected me to always know exactly what they should do. And so it was exciting to be in the middle of that, but that was definitely very, very pressure filled.
And did you know what they should do?
I felt like I had the tools to help them think through it. But you know, the interesting thing about social media, as we all know, is that sometimes what works today won't even work a week from now. Right? Like things are changing so fast, and the types of content people want and what's capturing attention. And so even I, working there, didn't have a magic bullet for, you know, exactly what would make someone popular on social.
And that's really like a mindset too about life, right? That there's no like that if you think this thing can change then you don't like pedestal any one person or approach or tactic and I imagine, that's quite like, that's a unique way to be brought up in the business world, is to say this thing will be changing constantly.
Yeah.
And it is change.
Yes.
Like it is change. And to then have to answer to that for other people and help them feel like they have an answer, but it also is malleable.
Totally. It's so I'd go into these meetings, I'm like, here's 20 things you could try. But the real thing is, even if you have one great post or one great piece of content, you can't rest on that. Like it's social media is a long-term community building strategy. It's not just like a one and done. And I think before social media, companies didn't look at marketing that way. They would be like, this is our one marketing campaign for the year that we're going to put out in the world. It totally changed the entire game to be like, oh, we have to be putting out content every day and engaging with our community every day. Was like a complete shift in behavior.
How many other women were in the original Facebook group that you've sort of referred to as like a big family? Actually, you sort of referred to it as like almost like a college experience.
It was pretty lonely in those early days. I was often the only woman in a room. I would joke that I would email people and they thought Randy was a guy. They'd be getting it. They thought they were emailing with a dude. And then I'd walk into the room and they'd be like, oh, where's your boss, Randy? And I was like, sucker.
Yeah, like, you got me.
Yeah. That was legitimately my business strategy for getting meetings for like the first year that I worked there, was just like confusing people into thinking they were emailing with a guy, which is funny and very sad at the same time.
Is there anyone or any experiences in those early days of like moments of learning from your peers that you can like think of or recall?
A memory is popping into my brain that I haven't even thought of in like 20 years. But I'm remembering an experience where a bunch of us went to the biggest mobile phone conference in the world in Las Vegas. And I was there with my colleagues, Jed and Kevin. And we found ourselves like the belles of the ball at this conference. I mean, we were kids. We were like, I think I was 23 or 24. And it was like every mobile phone provider and company in the world like wanted to figure out how to meet with us and how to work with Facebook. And we would just be looking at each other in between these meetings. And we're like, I think we are responsible for like paving the way forward with how mobile phone companies work with social media. And it was both terrifying and exciting. And we really leaned on each other in kind of a fascinating way that I still look back very fondly on.
That's such a cool moment to just be like, okay, we can like feel the weight of the world. We could feel like we're going to mess up, or we could just like simply move forward and just like pave the path and not, and like, I imagine there's not a lot of room to even be afraid of messing up because it's moving so quickly. And in an ultra marathon, which we'll talk about eventually, the advice I got was like, just keep making decisions and don't labor over any one decision. And that was the advice I got before I ran 100 miles for the first time. And it was so helpful because it was basically like, there are no mistakes. There's just another decision.
Yes.
And so in this moment you're in with Facebook and with the limelight on you and with the leadership that you're assuming without even knowing the next step or the answer all the time, did it feel like that?
Yeah. In fact, we had a mantra that was on a lot of posters on the walls that said, fail fast.
Oh, wow.
And it was because the mantra is basically like, it is totally okay to fail, but just do it real quickly and then solve the problem. So it's like, don't labor over decisions. Don't waffle. Don't sit there weighing every option. Like, make a fast decision, but don't make the wrong decision twice. And if you do make the wrong decision, recover from it really fast. And so I think a lot of us are so scared to fail, so we don't even start. But I think that gave a lot of us permission, like you said, in an ultra to just keep moving. And like, no decision is a bad decision. It's like how you recover from it. That's the good or bad decision.
And that, I mean, just to even put the word fail as part of a mantra is such an athletic thing to do, right? Because all sports teams fail, and it's very normal, right? The winningest teams lose. And to just put it out there so that it's not even a shameful word. Yeah. And then to add that, like, the fast is like, and you keep going, is a great thing for anybody to absorb, any of us.
Absolutely. Yes. Because I think, we're all, I think there's so much in our lives that is like, don't fail. Whatever you do, don't fail. And that just completely changed my perspective on everything. Where out in Silicon Valley, it's like, not only is it okay to fail, it's almost like a badge of honor that you tried something so risky and so bold that it failed is almost like more interesting to people out there than not trying at all.
Right. More interesting.
Yeah.
Meryl is so crazy versatile. I wear Meryls on all my runs, on the roads, on the trails. I walk my dog Bernini in Meryls. I wear Meryls to business meetings. And I even just wore the Speed Arc Surge Boa to my movie premiere in Hollywood, baby. I walked down the red carpet in these bad boys. I especially love the Boa lacing system and the Matrix upper. And these shoes have this dual density foam midsole, and that's where the bounciness and the durability comes from. For over 40 years, Meryl has been the global leader in hike, innovating, and crafting footwear designed for adventures of all speeds and sizes. Meryl believes in sharing the power of outside with everyone. From boots to hiking sneakers to trail running shoes, every silhouette is designed to deliver unmatched comfort and performance. For a limited time, we're partnering with Meryl to give you an exclusive offer of 25% off your first purchase order using code MentorBuffet25 when you check out on Meryl.com/Alexi. You can find my favorite Meryl shoes and gear at Meryl.com/Alexi. All right, guys, I've got something that you need to try, but first, have you been in the sun lately? Because I went to Mexico and I realized that the sun is amazing. And I got the first tan that I've gotten since like high school, and I feel so healthy. And I came back and I was like, how do I keep this feeling going? Because it's not sunny every day, even in LA, believe it or not. So I have been carrying around this little bevy from Peak. I wake up in the morning and I get this Sun Goddess matcha game on. I mix it with my milk, and then throughout the day I drink hydrating BT fountain. And the thing is that I feel like, look at me. I'm happy and I'm genuine. Like, I really feel good. So thank you, Peak, for throwing me a little whimsy inside my skin cells. The Sun Goddess Matcha is bursting with skin-loving EGCG antioxidants to firm, brighten, and clarify. And the BT Fountain has a powerhouse blend of bioavailable minerals, clinically proven ceramides, and hyaluronic acid for deep-lasting hydration at every level. These Peak products are made with pure premium ingredients for maximum benefits you can feel. They come in pre-measured sachets, which make staying consistent simple. Just dissolve in hot or cold water. Y'all gotta tap in, and good luck. For a limited time, get 20% off for life and get a free starter kit, rechargeable, frother, and glass included with my exclusive link, peaklife.com/mentorbuffet. That's PIQUE life.com/mentorbuffet. Peak offers a 90-day money-back guarantee so you can try it risk-free. Try them today and thank me later. Yes. Tell me. Okay. So tell me about a time that you failed bad.
Gosh, there's so many instances. One that I'm remembering in particular was we redesigned the entire site. Like we had been working on it for months, and we were so excited to share it with all of our user base, but we definitely did not launch it in the best way possible. One morning, everyone logged onto Facebook and they just saw a big green button that said awesome. And then when you clicked the awesome button, like your entire experience on Facebook changed. And we thought it was awesome because we had been playing with it and designing it for a while. But what we realized is that people don't like that kind of drastic change, especially in a product that is like such a part of their identity and their community and how they communicate on a daily basis. Like just putting a big green awesome button and then changing everything is like not a great way to launch a new product. And basically like everyone on the site revolted. They were so angry. And we were like, okay, all right, regroup everyone. Like apparently that's not a great way to launch a new feature. And maybe we should learn by that and dial it back. And then, we almost immediately did a lot more communication on the site. And I'm kind of smiling because that's such like a thing that like 20-year-olds would do and just like put out there in the world. But you can recover from just about anything, especially if you have good intentions. Mm-hmm. I can guarantee we never launched a product that way again.
Yeah. Well, and you use the word we a lot, which is really interesting because this was really it was we success. It was we failure always. And did that sense of we give you a feeling of safety or like camaraderie or teammateship?
Yeah, huge amount, because I felt like even if something did end up being a bad idea, there was not a culture of like throwing individuals under a bus and being like, oh, that was Randy's idea. So like, let's, it was very much a communal, like, okay, maybe Randy initially had that idea, but we all supported it. So it's all of our failure or all of our success. And I think that definitely gives a lot more confidence in trying things. It has really taught me to weather ups and downs better in my life, because it's reminded me that if you're in a wonderful phase or you're in a terrible phase, you're just riding a wave. It's all temporary, right? Like the good, the bad, it's all borrowed. It's all temporary. And so like you might as well just ride whatever wave you're on. And I think I didn't realize in it how much being in a startup like trained me for almost everything else that I did in my life after, and like gave me that kind of resilient mindset.
Mm-hmm. And the gratitude for its ephemeral nature. Right? Like you seem like you were in awe of it while it was happening.
Yeah, I was kind of both like deep in the weeds and also like, wow, I get to be part of something that like will be in history books, and how cool to even play like a teeny part of something that will go on to like become other people's careers and other livelihoods. Like I now lecture at universities where social media is a major, like It's a college major, and like how cool to have been there at the start, just figuring it out as like a kid myself, and now watching people build their entire livelihoods off of that. And, I think I didn't realize like the full extent of what we were living and creating, but I had enough self-awareness to know that we were part of something that was much bigger.
Why did you leave?
Okay, so this is kind of a wild story that you and I haven't even talked about. So one of my hackathon projects at Facebook was we created an 80s rock band. I mean, we were terrible. We were a terrible band, but we ended up playing at like every company holiday party. And randomly, I was 32. So this was like a decade later. And I got a call from the producer of a Broadway musical. And they were like, we are looking for a tech personality to come into our 80s rock musical on Broadway. And we saw some footage of your Facebook 80s rock band. Do you want to come be on Broadway? Like if you heard me sing, you would not think it was beautiful, but like I can scream an 80s rock song. And I just had this moment where I was like, I think Facebook just trained me to be like, yes, and to interesting experiences. And I was like, I don't think this is a thing that will ever happen in my life again. So I said yes. I had just found out that morning I was pregnant. And so they were like, maybe in a few months. I was like, Monday. I'll start Monday. And so, yeah, so that is what got me to step away from Silicon Valley was I went and sang on Broadway.
Wow. That's like fairy tale in such a nerdy way because of how they called you.
It was, I was like, did someone put you up to this? Like, right. I thought I was like on some episode of like Punk'd or something. And, but no, I started rehearsals 4 days later in New York City. You know, I think in the beginning, my castmates were a little wary of me because they had really put in the time, right? Like they had taken like so many lessons and gone to auditions and did everything right. And then here I was like just getting dropped into a lead role on Broadway with like, you know, like if someone got dropped into the like Olympic team without putting in any of the years of work, like I'd be angry too if I was them. And so, you know, I had to like earn their respect. But I think, you know, that was also a good exercise for me to be a beginner again at something, because I was now at the point after being in Silicon Valley and being at Facebook that like when I walked into a room, I was the expert. Right. And I was the person that everyone was looking to. And now here I was just like the lowest person on the totem pole, total beginner, stepping into a world that wasn't mine. I actually think that was like the best thing I could have done for my soul at that moment. I think it reminded me that it's okay to be a beginner and it's okay to fail and make mistakes and just brush yourself up and do it again. And it brought me back to like those earliest Facebook days when it was okay to do that. So I wish for more of us to take on things in life where we're total beginners.
Yeah, because you must have, in stepping into being an expert, you identify as an expert.
Exactly. And, you know, and so here I was, and, you know, I worked hard at rehearsals. I always would like be the first one there, and I took it really seriously. And I think, you know, ultimately by the end, I was able to earn the respect and trust of my colleagues who saw that I was, you know, honoring what they were doing and not trying to take shortcuts or not trying to make it all about me. And there are a lot of parallels between working in a startup and being in a Broadway cast, like the how close you get with everyone, how much everyone needs to work together and problem solve together when things go wrong. So in a weird way, it felt very familiar.
The muscle, the remote muscle memory is something you knew.
Totally. Almost everything I've done in my career was like I was completely unqualified to do, or like was the entire industry was just beginning. So maybe, you know, one lesson from my career is that it's okay to not have like a 10-year plan of what you want to do in your life, because probably the careers we'll all have in 10 years don't even exist today anyway. Starting in a brand new industry has a lot of advantages, because if you start on the ground floor, you can go from zero to expert much faster than if you try to work your way up in an industry that has existed for decades and decades. And I found myself 1 year into my crypto journey, just like really feeling like I was an expert on the topic.
Wow. And that's sort of what you've been encouraging people in your talks to do, right? When they try to go into the industries you've already been in. Yeah. It seems like you're really trying to like gently but firmly nudge people into these new directions that they can't even imagine.
Yes, especially women. Like we have a choice. You could fight an uphill battle being the only woman in a room in an industry that's already existed, or you could just get on the front lines of a brand new industry and create it and be there and be one of those first experts. And so that's why I think I desperately want to see more women take risks and be those trailblazers in new industries and just not fail fast.
Because it feels good?
Yeah, it feels good, but it's also like how exciting to be the person who's writing history instead of the person who's just trying to catch up with it.
Yeah. It sounds like in crypto you learned how to be the main character or start to realize that that was like a feeling that you could have.
I remember waking up after I turned 40, and I can only articulate this by saying that like I felt like I was in the wrong story in my life. Like I had this realization that if someone wrote the story of my life, I wouldn't be the main character in it. It would be a story about my brother, and it would be a story about other people in crypto, and it would be a story, you know, about my kids and my husband. And that was really sad, honestly. It felt sad to wake up at 40 having just hustled for 20 straight years in my career, like never taking a day off, and being like, for what? So that I could like have a life that I'm not even the main character in. And so that was I didn't really know what to do with that feeling, except that just I felt frustrated by that. And that's sort of beautifully coincided with finding running as a passion in my life. And I entered a half marathon in Central Park in New York City. And I guess all the good runners were somewhere else that day because like I won. I broke the tape on that half marathon. Awesome. And my 4-year-old daughter was standing right there at the finish, jumping up and down, screaming like, "You're winning, Mom, you're winning." And I had this moment, I think it happened in like 3 seconds from rounding the corner and seeing the tape, where I was like, this is mine. Mm-hmm. This is the first thing in my entire life that's all mine. Like, I'm going to break that tape and no one is going to be able to say that it's because I'm Mark's sister or someone's husband or someone, like, no one can say that. And it is the first thing in my entire life that's mine.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't even know what to do with that feeling, but I was like, I just want to keep chasing that forever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't have to break any more tapes in my life. Like, I know I'm not actually a great runner, but I was like, it was that feeling of like,
it's mine.
Yes, doing something that wasn't going to be, explained away or mm-hmm.
There's no caveats.
That's right. That's right. It's not like, oh, she got that because of her last name or having money or having access. Mm-hmm. Like, the only thing that gets you through, 250 miles, which is the race I'm signed up for now, mm-hmm. is your own hard work and your own effort and your own body. Like, there is nothing about anyone or any experiences in my life other than me that's going to get me through that.
If you're enjoying Mentor Buffet, follow Voicing Change for more inspirational and truly life-affirming content from shows like Soul Boom, The Proof, Feel Better, Live More, and the Rich Roll podcast. Just go to voicingchange.media. That's voicingchange.media for a beautiful selection of productive and positive shows.